Hey, folks, welcome to an all new episode of So Bad It's Good. This is your pal Ryan, and this is your Tuesday episode. How was your Monday, folks? Was it okay? I got to tell you, my Monday today was very productive. I was up early and I've worked pretty much straight through the day. It's 9:37 p.m. right now. I say I worked straight through the day, but my work is watching TV and movies now. So I watched a lot of TV and movies, and I do get to still say that's work, but at the same time, I was pretty happy for a good portion of the day. I finally watched, which by the way, so I just want, so you're good? You're okay? Okay, because if you're not, we can stop right here and we can talk. But okay, you're okay. Anyways, I'll ask you how you're doing tomorrow. We'll check in. Um, so I finally watched the season premiere of Real Housewives of Potomac, which you're going to see on Sunday. They released the first 6 minutes of this week's episode. Bravo will do that now with most shows. And so the cat's out of the bag. Karen Huger is in the first scene of Real Housewives of Potomac. They actually, we knew that they were filmed Karen getting released from prison. So they do a flash forward. We see Karen being released. We don't really see her. We just hear her. And then they flash back to 6 months prior. And I thought that was pretty ingenious, which means that they'll probably then in the final episode of Potomac, we'll get to see her actually get into the car and probably get a talking head interview with her. But I thought it was handled really well. The Potomac ladies, they're just fun, man. I got to tell you, Stacy, whoo, what a wackadoo. Sorry, Stacy, if you're listening, I know you'd fight me on that, man. But there was many moments of this premiere episode that I highly, highly enjoyed. And, I was also thinking, and you'll know why when you watch the episode, but most Bravo celebrities or reality stars seem to do this, is that I've been working on an essay is how to live your life like a Bravo celebrity. And Bravo celebrities, once they've been on a show for too many seasons, they start planning their life in events. So they'll throw a party and it'll be a certain theme, or they'll get a divorce, get married, hook up with somebody, have a baby. They'll do something because it's good storyline fodder. You notice that where it's like storyline. So in essence, Rebecca and I are having a baby. So that's me trying to be a Bravo celebrity. In all kidding aside, that's actually because we're really excited and we love each other. But if I was a Bravo celebrity, that's storyline, baby. You can get 9 months of storyline out of having a baby. But do you notice this? You see it everywhere. In fact, we're going to talk a little bit about Lala Kent here in a second. Lala and Sheena both, they know their way around a storyline, man. And it's like the audience, if you've watched Bravo enough, you got to see through the matrix, man. It's like red pill kind of stuff. I know that sounds very conspiratorial, but seriously, there's two types of Bravo viewers. There's the type of viewers, and I love this type of viewer that will just take anything as fact that they see on the show. You're like, well, it's got to be real. It was on this reality show. And then there's a second type of viewer that has watched the shows so much that you can pretty much determine how they're going to edit the show. You know when the commercial's going to hit, and you also are highly suspicious of certain storylines. And some things just don't add up or don't make sense, and you kind of feel like you're being fooled a little bit. And that's like the second type of viewer. Now, the first type of viewer, man, God bless that first type of viewer, because there'd be nothing more that I would like than to see a photo of Tom Schwartz and Lala Kent together and go, ooh, oh my God, are they together? That's amazing. Oh my God, you guys, Tom Schwartz and Lala. But then you actually start there and you think about it a little bit. And by the way, if you listen to So Bad It's Good, have I not been saying this? Listen, I don't take a lot of victory laps, but I'm about to take one. If you're a regular listener of this show, what has Ryan Bailey been telling you guys for the last 6 months? That Tom Schwartz and Lala Kent will be together in some fashion for a storyline. And they're both really nice people away from the camera. Schwartz is a nice person on the camera. Well, this has nothing to do with Lala as a mother, has nothing to do with them as real people, but this has to do with them as reality stars. And you watch enough of these shows and you start just going like, oh, I could see that being a storyline. Oh, I bet that'll be a storyline. Think about it. Which, by the way, let's stop really quick. I know I'm being jokey right now, but we really have one of an interview that I'm really proud of. And you can skip to that with the timestamps. We talked to Samantha Stites today, who was the subject and kind of the star of the 3-part Hulu docu-series Stalking Samantha, 13 Years of Terror. This came out in late August, and if you've listened to this show, I've talked about this multiple times. I think it got lost a little bit in the unknown number high school catfish, kind of, how hard that hit. But I don't think enough people have watched this 3-part docuseries, and it stayed with me since I've watched it. I've thought about it nonstop. I've watched it 2 times now, and we got to talk to Samantha today. And it's a very powerful interview. And just like in the docuseries itself, I mean, this lady is just one of the strongest ladies that I've ever talked to. I mean, and if you've seen this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you haven't seen it, I think you still will get so much out of this interview. I think you will want to watch the docuseries after that. But don't worry, we don't tell you the whole docuseries. There are so many things that we don't get to talk to. I was only planning on talking 30 minutes, and we almost went an hour. So that just means I talk a lot, as usual. But I'm just saying we have a really fantastic episode, and I don't want to get too goofy into the Lala Schwartz stuff without telling you that we have a fantastic episode. Okay, let's get goofy again. Lala and Schwartz. So they're both on this season of The Valley, right? And this doesn't take some big detective to like understand my logic and what I've been telling you guys. Sometimes I get inside information, but sometimes, most of the time, I don't. Most of the time, it's just I've watched enough of these shows. This is how I think it's going to go. And I've been right. So if you're just to base it by pictures, the cast posts a lot of photos from their events. They have all social media. Is that Lala's been at every one of these events for the most part. So already you're seeing Lala on this season of The Valley way more than you did on last season when they were posting their photos. And yeah, Lala was a handful of episodes. She didn't really do a lot. And now you see her in a lot of photos this time. So my deduction from all of that is Lala is going to be full-time. Now, they don't give out contracts in the quote of like full-time player, but she is a big part of this season. So if you're a big part of this season, and you know you're going to be a big part of this season, you got to think about storylines. Now, I don't know if this is how it works on The Valley, but I have talked to certain housewives and Bravo celebrities where how they produce a season is when they're preparing a season, they start interviewing the cast members. Hey, what do you got going on? What's going on in your life? What events do you have coming up? Tell me more about your relationship with this person. Tell me where you're at with this person. And so sometimes cast members, and I'm not saying Lala, but other cast members I've talked to have felt pressure. Like, oh God, I need to, well, there's an anniversary coming up. We could celebrate an anniversary, or I've got this coming up. Maybe I could talk about this. And so that's kind of how a season is pieced together, from my understanding. So with Lala, if you just look at any kind of social media, right? She has 2 kids, single mother. She is now rebranded. She has a new name on her podcast, and she did that interview with Amber Childers, Randall Emmett's ex, that Lala was the mistress in their relationship. And they did, I thought that interview was very good. I went over that interview on this podcast. So I would imagine the rebranding of Lala's podcast will be a part of this season of The Valley because it just lines up date-wise with that they're filming, right? But what's more, what have I been saying? I even said this on Shenanigans. I don't know if it made their edit, but I said I would love to see Lala date. I said, put her on Love Hotel. I want to see Lala date. I don't want to see some funny like group date scene or like, speed dating. I want to see Lala go on a date. So let's get to Schwartz, Tom Schwartz. He was on The Valley last season, kind of a friend of, but he was a friend of to Jax Taylor. Even though all these people know Schwartz and they love Schwartz, they all have real relationships with Tom Schwartz. That's not what I'm saying. But his main purpose last season was to be somebody who would talk to and film with Jax, because a lot of people didn't really want to, right? And so now Jax Taylor is no longer on The Valley. Well, what do we do with Tom Schwartz? Do we just cut him loose? No, everybody loves Tom Schwartz. Well, let's bring him on. But what can we do with Tom Schwartz? Well, Tom has a podcast. His bar is gone. He's divorced from Katie Maloney. Katie Maloney has moved on, has a successful podcast and a successful relationship. We know Tom Schwartz is broken up with the girl that he was with over a year ago, right? So Tom is allegedly single. So if you take Lala and you take Schwartz, who have flirted many a time on these shows, right? In the last season of Vanderpump Rules, I used to say this all the time, like, oh, is something about to happen? And listen, so this all leads us to today, when Lala on her social media, in her Instagram stories, and don't worry, don't put a lot of stock in anybody's Instagram stories. Remember, they show us what they want us to see, right? We all know that about social media at this time, yet we still kind of act like, oh, what? But she posted on her stories, her and Tom Schwartz, and they're kind of side by side. He has his arm over her shoulders, and she wrote, soft launch, like so soft it's not even real type soft. Okay, so in that typing right there, she says it's not real. She says it right there. There's the context. It's not real. So soft, it's not even real. She posts that, but she posts it knowing it'll get a reaction out of the Bravo audience. Now, this is like just PR 101. So even if you're not into reality TV, I mean, first off, what are you doing here? But second off, this kind of stuff needs to be studied, because it's almost like you're like road testing something. You're like, okay, let's put it out there and see what the reaction is. And it got a pretty big reaction. Listen, Bravo fans will go over every little morsel. So everybody's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I was like, yeah, I kind of expected this post. And so this could be a storyline. Like, oh my God, Lala posted that yesterday and everybody's freaking out. And then a scene with Schwartz and Lala going like, should we like maybe just try it? And she'll be like, I'll try it, dude, but you've got to pay for the date. And then we see an awkward date between Lala and Schwartz, and then they actually do kiss, and then it gets out to Janet or somebody, and Janet tells the rest of the gang, and it's a cute little fun storyline. Is it real? As real as anything in these people's lives are anymore. I think, like we said, there's a weird thing that happens, turns on in these people's heads after a couple years on reality TV, where everything is content. And since everything is content, it leads you to make very weird decisions where you're almost thinking about the audience and the producers and and just honestly, the paycheck. Now, Tom Schwartz, really good, nice guy, upstanding guy, funny guy, but let's not forget, Tom Schwartz was also part of the Scandival cover-up. Listen, he kissed Raquel. He let a Raquel fake romance storyline go down on, the Scandival season of Scandival, right? Knowing that his buddy had something going with Raquel, knowing that it would help him, and even the production, they were kind of egging him on to do it. Everybody was egging him on to do it, so much so that Katie was even aware that that was the motion of the ocean. Didn't know about Sandoval, but knew that's what was kind of happening, right? And so, yeah. My argument against all of this is that you need to come correct at some point. Is that you think you can outsmart the audience, and in some ways you can, but that only lasts for so long. Think about it. Vanderpump Rules had really ran out of steam by the time that Scandival happened. And I'm not saying that, it was all set up to like revitalize the show. No, not at all. But the reason the Scandival season worked was because finally the cast had to react to something that was real and something that wasn't in the back of their heads all planned of like, this might make good TV, this might make good TV. This was something hidden, something that was not meant to come out. And so when it did come out, that reaction and us being able to watch those episodes and watching Tom lie, and we knew he was lying at this point, and for him to continue the lie, it provided one of the most unique viewing experiences in reality television. Because we knew the truth, and Tom thought he was pulling one over on the audience, and we already knew the outcome. And so they were forced to react based on something so real nobody had a heads up about. And that's, to me, what makes good reality television. So I do believe we're going to see some mild flirtation. I do believe, and listen, who knows? You never know. Listen, this might test so well. And it might be actually, they might get to a moment where they're like, I don't know, I guess let's really try it. I mean, Schwartz thinks Lala is hot, even though he did call her a fake Kardashian that one episode, right? But like, she's a beautiful woman. He's a really nice, good looking dude. I mean, they're both good looking people. Good looking people kind of flock to each other. So crazier things have happened, but everybody needs to cool their jets. I'm not trying to be Nancy negative here. I just made up that term, Nancy negative. But let's just try to read a little bit between the lines. And that, they all want this to be good. My argument, once again, is that you can't control what is good. You just got to be real and let the producers and the show capture that. And that also kind of blends in with Sheena as well, because Lala went on her podcast today and kind of, once again, could have been a phone call. I told Sheena this last week. Why can't we just reach out and talk to these people? Why does this have to be on the podcast? And then Lala's got to answer it on her podcast, and then you get to answer it next week. And it starts to when that happens, it starts to be like, is this real or is this fake? Because everybody's monetizing it. And what Lala said, I understood. She was talking about how much do you need, Sheena? Talking about I've sat in Sheena's car with her and cried about the Brock situation, but it's never going to be enough for Sheena. And speaking as somebody that has a big dark hole in himself, that a lot of things in my career, it'll never be full enough, but I don't have the ambition of a Sheena or a Lala. But I think a lot of us understand that. But once again, when I hear those things from Lala, as much as they might make sense to you or to me, my overall thought was, well, what kind of friend blasts this out to all of us? What kind of friend, it's one thing to talk to, Janet or somebody because you actually have a real relationship with Janet, Lala. But then to take it to us, that adds this whole other level of oh God, now you've got the audience, even further shitting on Sheena. But it's coming from Lala. And Lala, I think, believes herself as a reliable narrator. And Lala's never been a reliable narrator. Lala's just really confident. And she's very well spoken and she's funny. I'm trying to give her as many compliments as I can. But I thought that was just why do we keep going back and forth on each other's podcasts and just talking smack when if real friends, and especially when your job is in the public eye, you call people. You keep this behind closed doors, unless you're going to monetize it, unless you're going to make this a storyline for the Valley. What do I know, folks? I'm just a podcaster. What else is going on in the news today? Oh, that's right. We had a separation that I did not see coming from a mile away, even though a lot of people were like, I saw it. Nicole Kidman and country singer Keith Urban have separated. They have separated. Listen, I've said this on the podcast before. I was like, God, Nicole Kidman works a lot. I mean, just she never stops working. And I think I've joked about when does she have time to have a life? But they have 2 kids. And my thought was they are so ensconced in being a successful couple. And I don't mean a successful Hollywood couple, but I always just thought, oh, they really, really love each other. And I'm not saying they don't love each other still, but they really love each other to the point where he lets her go do her thing, which is acting in 24 things a year. And he gets to be a very successful country singer, an American Idol judge at one point. They make it work. And they're going to make it work. So I really was shocked. And then you think about it, you're like, yeah, when do you have time to have a marriage? When do you have time to do all of these things? So I got a TMZ push alert this afternoon, and it says Nicole Kidman, Keith Urban separated. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban have separated, TMZ has learned. Multiple sources with direct knowledge tell TMZ the couple has been living apart since the beginning of summer. We're told Nicole has been taking care of their 2 children and, quote, holding the family together through this difficult time since Keith has been gone. As for why, we're told it's one-sided. Nicole did not want the separation and has been trying to save the marriage. One source says Keith has acquired his own residence in Nashville and has moved out of their family home, which is also in Nashville. As for whether the couple will divorce, to be determined. Keith and Nicole married in the year 2006, and their kids are 14 and 17. So he wanted this, which I think if you kick that can down the road, you think, okay, is there somebody else? Did Keith fall in love with somebody else? What's going on? Is it just that she potentially works too much? Who knows? I mean, I was kind of weirdly sad about this. I said, I hope Nicole Kidman is taking comfort at an AMC movie theater because we know she loves it there. according to every AMC intro I see when I go to the movie theaters. But it's really sad. Now, young kids out there, this is why we got to open the schools. A lot of people, not us, but a lot of people, young kids, don't even remember a time when Nicole Kidman was married to Tom Cruise. That marriage lasted just shy of 10 years. But that, and then Keith Urban, who came in, and it was like a completely different situation. Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise had two adopted kids, and Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman had two biological kids. And I'm just very curious what other information comes out about this. But I was a little sad. I mean, as always, I say Camelot has fallen. And I'm very curious what we will find out next. But it's always sad when anybody separates or gets divorced. And I hope everybody will be okay. Nicole, if you're listening, I hope you're okay. Keith, you too. You probably, I think Nicole would listen over Keith. And that's it for today, folks. Come back on Wednesday. We have another interview, and I'll be talking more pop culture stories because there is a lot, including Sydney Sweeney's very weird birthday party that just happened. And she's now out in the open dating Scooter Braun, but Elon Musk was there and his wife, and Chewbacca was there. I'm not joking. Chewbacca was there. So we'll talk more about that on Wednesday. Have the best Tuesday ever. And I'm telling you, I know this is a more serious interview, and I do want to give trigger warnings that we do talk about abuse and harassment and sexual assault. So I wanted to let you guys know that up top, but I think this is a very important conversation. I think this is a very fascinating story, and I implore you to go watch this 3-part docuseries on Hulu. I thought it was a really, really fascinating viewing experience. Okay, here we go. Folks, welcome back to So Bad It's Good. Now, I've been talking about this next docuseries for the last month. I saw this a month ago over on Hulu. It's produced by ABC News Studios, which is doing some really fantastic work. I thought I was just going to watch one episode, and it really just sucked me in. This is a no-frills docuseries that is one person's account of the terror that she faced over a decade worth of time. But I just thought it was fascinating. I think everybody should be watching this. I want more people to be talking about it because I think there are so many important red flags if you see in your own life with certain people. Now, this is a tease of the story before we get to our guest. Samantha Stites, a bright, outgoing college freshman, met Christopher Thomas in 2011, and an obsession took hold. The next 11-year period, Christopher constantly stalked Samantha. This obviously ramped up until 2022 when the harassment went to the next level, where he broke into her home, kidnapped her, restrained her, and took her to a bunker he had built in a storage facility. She had to do everything in her power to survive this, and she did. Like I said, this is a really gripping 3-part docuseries. We are so lucky. We are so honored to have a survivor with us today. Samantha Stites, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Samantha, I have to say, first off, it's really like I feel like I need to start with an apology because I feel like this has got to be so sometimes awkward and horrible for you to have to keep potentially doing interviews about this kind of horrific thing that you actually survived. Are you getting tired of talking about this to some degree?
Yes and no. I mean, yes, because I feel like my life in a lot of ways has moved on. I mean, this happened a couple years ago now. I've done a lot of therapy and processing, and as people hear it for the first time and process it, they have these big reactions, understandably, to it. And also, no, like the whole reason for sharing my story was to be able to help other people that may be going through something like this, or, to help identify those signs of stalking in others, to hopefully another person doesn't have to go through something like this.
Yeah. I had never seen somebody recount their story with such like this inner strength, and not a peacefulness, but this inner strength where you never came off as like, I love the camera, but it's the same point. You were able to recount everything that had happened to you over this large period of time. And I think for the audience, I was like, this is unbelievable. But you really, I mean, you were just recounting your life's experience. And to take people back, you first met this person in 2011 at your college, correct?
Yeah. Yep. He was just like an acquaintance. He was somebody who was a few years older than me even, which is significant when, you're 19 or 20. He's in his mid to late 20s at that point. He was somebody who I just played a game of frisbee with some people out on
Yeah.
the lawn.
And everybody's like, at that period of your life, everybody's kind of having a good time and kind of discovering who they are and going into adulthood. And then you have this gentleman, and he was overweight. He was potentially a little goofy. Not that anybody was particularly making fun of him, but I'm sure he kind of stood out in some ways, but not in a dangerous way at first. Correct?
No, not in a dangerous way, just socially awkward, like is going to have a hard time making friends, let alone, he is overweight. He's not necessarily attractive. He's older than most, students at this university. So, I mean, I was kind to him. We were
Yeah.
always taught, be a nice person, treat others as you'd want to be treated. I didn't say I went out of my way to be nice to him particularly, but, I was kind and welcoming, introduced myself, made small talk, that sort of thing.
But you strike me as the kind of person that's nice to everybody, which I think is such a great rule of thumb to go through life. But then I was watching this and I was like, what's the lesson? Should we be mean to more people right out of the gates? You know?
Good question. I mean, I would say now I hate to say it, I mean, I think I'm not as kind and welcoming, especially to men, maybe as I had been,
I think that's so smart.
especially. And I hate to say that because I feel like everyone deserves a chance to be seen and heard and all that kind of stuff, but I'm a lot more apprehensive, understandably, than maybe I used to be when I was 20. I'm 33 now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I so you were nice to him, and then he started. Was it started with the messaging? Was he started like texting or messaging you on Facebook? Is that like kind of the small beginnings?
Yeah, yeah, and this was 2011, 2012. That was what a lot of college kids did. You're meeting a lot of people, you're making connections. Back then you'd add them on Facebook. Sometimes you'd, ask them that way if they're free to do something or want to attend events or things like that. That was really popular, in that era. So I didn't really think much of it. He's an awkward person. It makes
Yeah.
sense that maybe he'd feel more comfortable behind a keyboard interacting with somebody.
And was there? I mean, so it starts interacting. Is there like, okay, this is potentially a little weird, or now he's messaging, but it's still okay, or there's still potentially a light friendship here. When was this first cause of concern during that period of time?
I mean, I think the number of messages started increasing more than what an in person, like that would make sense if you're also talking to somebody more frequently in person, which I wouldn't say I was necessarily building any sort of relationship with him in person. But he really was messaging me more and more. And I wasn't necessarily super interactive in those messages.
Yeah.
I was kind, I'd answer his questions. I wasn't necessarily trying to get to know him a lot, though. I definitely felt as those messages increased, I thought, does he have some sort of romantic interest in me or something that I didn't really want to encourage because there wasn't that reciprocal interest in him. So I, was just kind of kind and brief. And, it was once those messages started to kind of increase and, things kind of came to a head when he left flowers for me, but at my internship and at my house. And then he revealed to me he knew where my internship was because he followed me there one day.
Yeah.
Um, and that was kind of the first thing that was like, that's not normal.
No.
And, that caused me to say, hey, Christopher, I'm not interested in you. I want you to his response was kind of strange. And I ended up asking him to leave me alone. I was like, I'm not mad at you per se, but I don't want any sort of relationship with you. I'm not interested in you. I feel like this kind of crossed a boundary, kind of thanks, but no thanks, leave me alone sort of thing.
I will say at every point in this docu-series, you were so upfront. You were so like, I'm not interested in you. Please stop. Like you couldn't have been more clear in your words and your actions, and yet this continued. So the first part of the story, you guys, is this kind of first part. And then we have like years pass, right? And or is it you're going to do your internship, right? And then he messages you out of the blue saying he got an internship where you got an internship, and would I be able to get a ride? And that blew me away. Like, I mean, that your mind must have exploded when you got that.
I was very disheartened. Like, I had blocked him at this point. I graduate. I think, I'm moving back to my hometown. I'm going to be a couple hours away. This is a problem. I'm going to leave back on this
It's
college
joyous.
campus.
Like it's a
Yeah,
joyous
I'm
experience,
excited.
right?
I'm planning to move halfway across the country, and 2 days before I do that, he finds me physically in my hometown and like pulls over on his motorcycle and approaches me and asks me for a ride. And I am just flabbergasted that after all of this, someone would, I don't think he had graduated at that point. I think he still had more schooling to do. So he was potentially going to disenroll in classes and move halfway across the country and ask this person for a ride who very clearly has shut him down.
And
I was like,
were you with a family friend at the time when this happened?
yeah, I
Because
was.
there's a lot of talking head interviews, you guys, with a lot of her friends and certain family people, and that. What did he think at this moment when this happens?
Yeah, this person was kind of like a father figure to me. He was my boss technically at the time. I worked at this like summer youth program, and I had kind of told him a bit about him, and when this happened, he was like, "Well, let's sit down and talk about this more. Tell me really what all has happened with this person." And we sat down, and I kind of wrote down all these instances with him, and we kind of both look at what I've written and what we've discussed and go, he's stalking
Whoa.
me. This was like the first time we really used that big S word of like, this person is stalking me and we need to take legal action because he's not responding to things other people have said, to what I've requested, to anything, it seems like. And now it's not just something that's on this isolated college campus. He's trying to move across the country and follow me there.
And you do take legal action at that time to get some form of a what is it, a restraining order? What is it, a
Yeah.
PPO, or what do they call it?
Yeah, personal
Um,
protection order. I think it maybe varies from state to state, but yeah, essentially like a restraining order where if he comes within a certain distance of me or tries to communicate with me, I can call the police and they can arrest him, or he can be, found in violation of that protection order. So I pursue one of those right before I leave, and I get granted one that is 6 years long, which is like the
that's a long
longest.
time.
That's the longest that judge, who had been a judge for, I think, decades in that county, is the longest he had ever granted. He said this is stereotypical, stalking
Yeah,
behavior, and this is really escalated, and I have concerns for her safety. So, I
yeah.
think we're done. Like, there is legal action. Nothing can happen, essentially, to what I think. I don't see or hear from him again, really, in any
Now,
significant manner.
I have a primarily female listenership or viewership, and hear so many of my women friends' stories about dating and things like this, and in that 6 year period, how much is Christopher in the back of your head, or were you still somewhat not naive in any sense, but like still like, well, I did what I needed to do, I did the right thing, the judicial system is handling this, and I can go on about my life.
I mean, I did have confidence in the judicial system. It seemed like this person was leaving me alone. I definitely looked behind my shoulder and, was cautious about interacting with people that reminded me of him. I had a bad experience with somebody. It's really normal to be like, maybe I'm not quite as nice to the person who's sort of the outsider, or, short, bald, redheaded men, like
Yes.
things like that. I mean, it's in the back of my mind, of course, and
Yeah.
now I can really put a feel and a taste, so to speak, to what stalking is like.
So it
Um,
changed you in small ways, but you were still able to go about your life in a lot of other ways. And I think women deal with so many, I'm sorry, just creepy instances perpetrated by men. And I hate to be stereotypical, but the data is there. But this obviously is so much more of an intense story. But you did everything right. I mean, you did everything right in this situation. You go about your life. And then it's 6 years later, you guys. The PPO has expired, and guess who shows up? You're in a different town, right? Is it you're playing soccer? Is that when he pops
Yeah,
up
I
again?
had moved back to kind of my hometown area where he initially said, I want to follow you across the country. Can I get a ride, sort of thing? That same sort of area where I'm from, which is 2 hours from this university campus where I met him. This is like during the pandemic. I had moved back, started my career. I bought a house. I was trying to meet people in this area. I was playing in this rec soccer league. Everyone was wearing masks at
Successful.
the time. It was, yeah, I mean, I was a successful young adult, and I had totally kind of put this whole experience out of my mind. I wasn't thinking, obviously, if I had heard from him or,
Yeah.
had any indicators this was keeping up, I would have asked to renew the protection order, but it didn't. And then I see him one day at this park where we're playing this in this soccer league, and my heart just sinks, and I think, oh my gosh, is the PPO still active? When did it end? And I looked it up, and it had ended like that in just recently.
I mean, isn't that like? I mean, weirdly, I'm going to be a stalker that goes by the book. I'm going to be a stalker that obeys this protection order, this is why the story is so weirdly fascinating, you guys, for so many different reasons. Once again, you got to watch this. We're just scratching the tip of the iceberg here, but you see this. I mean, I have to imagine I would like run into the ocean at this point because I just don't think my mind could process that was him. But also, you guys, he looks completely different. He's lost a bunch of weight. Your friend has this amazing talking head where she says it looks like he was training for something. By the way, did you watch the docu-series, or is it too painful for you?
I did watch it. Yeah, I think they did a great job.
They did a
Yeah.
great job. I watched so many of these. And like I said, this is just all story. It's no frills, you guys. That's why I really highly recommend it. But your friend said it looked like he was training for something. When you recognized that was Christopher, did you have also of like, oh my God, he looks totally different?
Yeah, I was like, I mean, he looks healthier. He's thinner. He looks kind of stronger. He's eating better. I don't know. I don't know what the
good,
deal is,
good
but
for him.
I clearly recognize him. And I am terrified just from, although even all those years later. And I think, is this just a coincidence? Obviously, I have no idea. He doesn't try to approach me. He doesn't talk to me. I begin seeing him every week at this soccer league. And I know that he sees me. Like, there's no way I look the same. He looks
Yeah.
more different than what he did. But never once does he try to approach me. Never once does he even wave or say hi. Any
But
indication.
Samantha, isn't it also like, wasn't he like really not good at soccer too?
No, he wasn't good at soccer. He has never been good at soccer. He like grew up playing football, and like he was an athletic person. He's fast, but he, had no real soccer skills. And
Yeah.
so I'm thinking this league that I'm a part of, they have several sports. They have softball, they have like volleyball, all of these sorts of co-ed sports. I think they had men's football even, and I'm thinking, why is this person playing soccer? It's not like
Exactly.
he's not showing up with a friend or somebody. He's always coming alone. He's always kind of standing alone or approaching people and sort of making conversation. There's nothing that leads me, like, why would he pick soccer, and why here, why now?
Yeah. I mean, but it's so weird. It's like there's like this weird gaslight element of he's not really communicating with you. He just happens to be there. Like it's just all these weird little things that I would go crazy with in the back of my head because I don't want to think the worst of people ever. Even though he's now exhibited so many things of like this is a code red thing, but there's one moment on the field where you guys do play against each other and I think like you're like racing for the ball or something and he gets it and he sticks his tongue out at you and like gives you like this kind of fierce tongue wagging, weird, creepy thing. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's kind of this, I mean, it's taunting.
Yeah.
But it feels so much different in this context because I begin seeing him at the gym. I begin seeing him at the grocery store. Just the city's not all that big that I lived in, but you don't run into people that much.
And how could
Um,
he know every place that you're at? That's what I
how
kept
could
saying.
you
Like, how
know?
could he possibly know And you guys, the documentary is really interesting because then it'll show photos on Christopher's phone during the time where he was taking photos of Samantha going into the gym or doing her normal everyday activities. So this starts kind of ramping up in a certain way, and then you finally talk to him again, correct?
Um,
Or when does he start like in messages call you Jelly Bean, or was that previous
I had no interaction with him since
at this
before
point?
this PPO.
Yeah.
He had called me Jelly Bean like back in college, and I didn't
Oh,
really
okay.
get why, but I didn't really have any interaction with him. That was the thing. I just began seeing him a lot, and he tried to like be a sub on my soccer team. I was running late one day, and he kept asking the team I was playing against if they needed another player, if he could sub. So I kept playing against him, like being on the same field. It's like 7 aside maybe, so it's a smaller, a smaller field, a smaller group of people. It was just starting to drive me nuts. Like he's not acknowledging me. I feel like he's following me, but I don't know how. He's not talking to me. Can it even be called stalking? Like there's nothing. He's not trying to interact with me. Has he wizened up? There's no way this is all a coincidence. I start feeling crazy, is
Yeah.
like this is
And
too
are you
much to
telling
be.
all your? I mean, you're telling your entire circle at this point, right? Like, I don't really know, but just be aware of this gentleman.
Yeah, like I don't want to scare them, and my friends, were frightened at this point. They're like, there's no way this is a coincidence. Like he's got to be tracking you. We search my car for an air tag or a
Yeah.
tracker or something. We don't find anything. I'm frantically locking my doors and windows. I'm like taking note when I'm parking places what cars are parked around me. I'm
You're
very
doing everything right once
I'm
again.
trying
Of
to do
like,
everything right, but I'm also like my friends are like, quit playing in that league. I'm like, this is one of my only like social outlets. Like I
quit living your life, Samantha. What are you
and
gonna say?
I'm not doing anything wrong. Why should I have to make myself smaller or change my life because someone else is following me and stalking me? To some degree, yeah, be safe about it. But at the same time, I was like unwilling to give up things that were important to me, like this,
Yeah.
athletic social aspect of something I enjoyed and looked forward to every week.
Now, because you then go back to a judge at a certain point, and he makes an infamous mistake. What leads up to that next court where you actually go and try to get another restraining order?
So the kind of pressure I'm feeling from my friends becomes intense. Like I know I'm getting stressed out about this. Like I'm concerned about my own safety. I have a weapon I'm sleeping with under my mattress. I've warned people close to me about him. I feel like he's following me somehow, and it just feels like it's this situation all over again, but very subtle. And I don't I don't know what to do. And I tell everyone on my soccer team about this person. And one of the girls I play with, she says, "Hey, I don't know if you know, but I'm an assistant prosecutor in this county." And I was like, "Well, fancy that." And she's like, "If you ever want me to connect you with our like victim advocate, or you ever want help filing for another PPO, I'm happy to help. Just let me know." And some time passes, and I reach out to her and I go, people are really kind of pressuring me to do this again. I don't know that I have enough evidence, but I think I want to try to, apply for another PPO. I said, I explained the situation. I'm like, I had this previous PPO in a neighboring county. Um, I'm sure the judges know each other. Like it's a
Yeah.
small rural area.
Yeah.
I believe I included all of the information they would need to find that PPO and, verify that information. I explained what I was afraid of. It was clear he wasn't actually approaching me or talking to me, but I feel like I'm being followed, and they essentially say, this relationship seems complicated. We're denying the PPO. You can appear in court with him, and we can get to the bottom of it. But
Oh my God.
essentially, you need to come to court for us to sort this out. And I think this person's dangerous. If we
Yeah.
show up to court and he's there, he would be there, and they deny it, then I'm agitating this potentially dangerous person. And so I think, I'm going to wait until there's more evidence because things are trending that I'm seeing him more and more frequently. Maybe I take more photographs. Maybe I essentially stalk this person to prove he's stalking me, and they'll grant the protection order again. And then when I see him, I can call the police. And there can be like actual charges associated. And from that time, after filing and getting the PPO denied, I'd see him at soccer, but I stopped seeing him other places. I stopped seeing him at bars. I was seeing him multiple times per week, and it was more than coincidental. Yeah. And it just kind of stopped. Besides that weekly encounter with him at soccer, and I just thought, well.
But doesn't that ramp up your paranoia even more?
I'm relieved. I think I don't want to go through this. I don't want to think somebody's stalking me. I think maybe it is a coincidence. Maybe there's nothing to this.
That's why this jerk was so sophisticated in his overall plan with this. Like, it just every step of the way putting it on you, of making you feel like you're crazy, and also in some ways abusing your good-naturedness, who you are as a person and what you want to believe about the world and your surroundings. And I think a lot of people are exactly like you, and it's like you want to encourage that kind of goodness in people. But this then eventually, like, it all drops away, right? And then that leads up to the October 2022.
Yeah, I hear a noise outside my bedroom door. And I'm a very light sleeper, but I can see this shadow that looks like a person. And there's a person on the other side of my door. I think if I'm being robbed, they would be taking items. Somebody on the other side of this door, if there is somebody, they're here for me. And I think, well, I'm half asleep. I'm under the covers. I'm in my underwear. I'm like, if they don't have a weapon, do I introduce one? I have this really sharp hatchet under my mattress. And I just think don't do it, because if they're more prepared than you, they could turn this weapon against me. So just think, I'm just going to turn on the light and figure out what's going on. And the moment I reach to turn on the light, he bursts in and jumps on top of me and begins choking me.
And you guys obviously, this is Christopher. And at this
I recognize him immediately.
Yeah, you recognize him immediately. Are there any words exchanged from him?
He just asked me to stop. I'm screaming, obviously. Yeah. He's telling me to stop screaming. That's kind of all I really remember. And eventually I pretend to pass out because I'm I don't know how to get him off me. What do I do? Can I reach for this weapon now? And he binds my hands and feet and puts a ball gag in my mouth and tapes my whole head. And I just said, if you're going to rape me, just rape me. If you're going to do all of this, I thought he's going to rape and kill me, and this is going to be the end. That just through that experience.
But then he actually kidnaps you, and he takes you to a storage facility where he has built you guys a bunker within the storage facility that is soundproofed, has a bed in it, has a bucket to pee and poo and all of this weird thing that he had built, that he had spent all of this time building. And, this is where I just would not have my wits about me. And this is where it seemed like all of your wits kicked into such high gear and you were able to think clearly. And I was just wondering, as a young kid, were you always like that? Were you always able to assess danger or assess situations and read people?
I think I grew up in not such great circumstances. I grew up with a single parent. My mom got cancer when I was a kid. She had abusive partners from time to time that were alcoholics. So I kind of grew up in an environment where I had to pay attention to, when I get home for the day, what are things like? Are the lights off and my mom's drinking at the kitchen table? Is there a movie on? Is it lighthearted? Is dinner prepared? Are people fighting in the next room? I have to kind of read the scenario and act accordingly. So I feel like anyone can kind of identify with that sort of chaotic home environment kind of grows up to be able to take in their environment in such a way that they can remember and respond to things. And I don't think that's probably the only reason. I think anyone who knows that the only way our bodies are designed to protect ourselves. And if our mind is the only way out of a situation, we're going to get clear-headed. We're going to be sharp. You think of a mom who is trying to save her child from being crushed by a vehicle. She gets this superhuman strength to be able to get them out. People can do amazing things when their lives are, put on the line. And I think it's kind of a combination of those things. Like, I was somebody who was always, noticing small things. I was always calm in kind of emergency situations. I don't know.
You say all of this stuff, and I'm like, no. The moment a zombie apocalypse happens, I'm dying immediately. Like, they're getting me. I have no wits about me. Like, this is as good as it gets right now, you guys. But like, that's why I was so blown away, because he takes you to this place. You're able to assess the situation, and instead of like, I mean, what I would think I would just go comatose, you have conversation with him. You actually start talking to him, and he starts talking back to you. And, this is in the second episode, you guys, and we're not going to go through all of that. And I want, like I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I want you to watch this entire thing, and I think you are really going to be better for it. But you are able to convince him while in there, because you assess that, like, if I don't do something, I am going to die here. Like, there's no way around it, right? And you're able to convince him, I'm not going to tell anybody, Christopher. I'm not going to, we can go back to our normal lives. We have a friendship now, or something like this. And you're able to convince him to let you go. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm able to kind of get in his mind and see, I recognize this person's still in love with me and they wanted to speak with me. He doesn't necessarily want to kill me. But I think given all that he's done, he's certainly capable, and time isn't really on
he might realize the longer you're there that there's no other way out of it except for you to perish.
Yeah. How else, he never had a real exit plan. He had planned to keep me there for 2 weeks. And I, asked him, well, what's the end of this? What do we do after those 2 weeks? I'm thinking after a day, people are going to be looking for me. I'm not, and everyone's going to look at him first because all my friends are on alert that this person is stalking me. I magically disappear. Like, that's going to be the first person you look at. So
wasn't he able to like place your car somewhere where it was going to look like you went out like sailing or something in the water?
Yeah, he didn't actually place it there, but his thought was he was going to fake my death, that I took the day off work and went paddling on Lake Michigan and fell off and drowned or something. And that was going to keep the police busy. And just teasing that out, it was like, he's going to be so much more on edge if people are looking for me, and potentially for him. I'm like, I only have this narrow window to try to get out of this situation and make it work. Like, if he wants to be friends or is in love with me and wants this somehow, some sort of relationship, how can I convince him that that's possible? He's afraid of prison. I'm like a trained therapist, so I'm like, I know how to get to what people are motivated by and what people want. How do I kind of also manipulate that into getting everyone out of this situation safely? How do I get myself safe, and how do I, convince him not to hurt me?
What is that feeling like when you get through to him and he does say okay and agrees to what you have said? Is that feeling like any moment this could break, he could take it all back, like that period of time when he does agree and you're starting to get out of this facility that he built? Like, was that just the most tense moments?
Yeah, I definitely felt like I was gaining traction over this day of conversing with him. Like, okay, he's buying that he thinks we could be friends, or, he's starting to believe that maybe it's possible that I wouldn't tell people, where I'm gaining trust over the day. But there's this like looming agreement we make that he essentially doesn't feel like he can trust me unless he sleeps with me. And I'm thinking the whole day, whether I'm agreeable to whether I, agree to this verbally or not, I'm like, he can easily tie me back up, chain me to the wall, and rape me. And I've thought that from the beginning. And so how do I have some agency in this situation? How can I use what he wants to my, if I can use some bargaining, like, okay, well, you'll set me free from this if we sleep together. I make it very clear I have no interest, and the only reason I'm doing it is for you to let me free. I'm thinking that's not consent. It's clear he doesn't understand consent.
But it's the only bargaining chip or chance to actually get your overall autonomy by agreeing to this ridiculous, horrifying thing.
I can't get him to budge otherwise. It's the only thing that he feels like he can put on the table where he will free me and things won't escalate.
Sorry to skip ahead, but I know I have limited time. I just wanted to let the audience know you do get out. And what I was so worried about when I was watching this, that you were going to just keep quiet, even though I know that there was a whole third part that obviously, but I was like, oh my God, please. And you immediately pretty much, go to the hospital. The police are involved. And at that moment, there was no doubt in your mind that you were going to do all of that, correct?
Oh, immediately. Even before we left that bunker, I think if he actually follows through and lets me out, if he doesn't, then we have a whole other issue on our hands. I'm banking that this person is being honest with me because they value integrity and all these other things I thought I knew about him, despite his twisted.
Wait, did he keep bringing up, because he was bringing up God in a lot of the messages about God, had a plan and wanting you guys to be together. Was he talking about God at all when you were confined with him?
A little. We talked about faith a little bit. I don't feel like that was necessarily a major conversation point because it seemed I didn't know how I could necessarily use that to my advantage without making him feel guilty or ashamed. I didn't want to aggravate him. Would God be okay with, you know what I mean? So we didn't, unless he brought it up, it wasn't something we discussed a ton.
It was just something I was curious. So you go do this. They pick up Christopher, you guys, and this is why this docuseries is so amazing because we're benefiting from all of this footage that you have in interrogation rooms now, and all of this. So we're there and we're watching Christopher's first questioning, and for you watching this footage, what do you think when you hear him and he's trying to say oh, I took vacation days, that's why I had this off, and then it's no, this isn't a stalking thing, we have this agreement. What are you thinking when you watch this footage of his interrogation?
I mean, he behaves how I would anticipate him to behave. And obviously he knows he's done something wrong and he's trying, what's a logical explanation? Oh, well, we have this role playing, sexual thing going on. That's very easy to, determine that's not the case.
And the officers know this, but they're trying to get him to speak and talk. And it also is uncovered in this that this isn't the first person that he has stalked. This isn't the first person he's harassed. There was somebody earlier before Samantha that he had done this to. And that's another moment where my mind was just blown of oh, he has had a history of doing this. And that couldn't have shocked you, right? Because you were in the situation you were in.
It didn't shock me, but I was angry about it. The police or the judges or anybody making these PPO decisions have that ability to probably look up that information, and nobody did it. He's done this before, and he's had a previous.
There were times to stop this man every step of the way, and that's why the judicial system is so important, and survivor stories are so important, and just believing women every step of the way, and that's why this is so frustrating. But he's talking about this and in his mind, or what the excuses he's using, but eventually this does go to trial. He doesn't agree on one point. He's really adamant on one charge. And, you have to make a really tough decision about putting him behind bars, but do we drop this charge to just get him behind bars? Or, can you speak to what you were going through in that moment? Because it just seemed horrifying on top of horrifying.
Yeah, he was charged with, 7 charges, and 3 of them were criminal sexual conduct, sexual assault. And through speaking with the prosecutor, it was clear that his attorney couldn't get him to plead guilty to any of the sexual assault charges because he's like, I've explained consent, Christopher believes you consented and that, we've explained that somebody cannot consent in these situations, XYZ. And I'm thinking, this person raped me. They should be held responsible on paper for that. And, I feel torn because I'm like, I don't want to be dragged through the mud, but if they don't offer this plea deal where they're dropping those charges for other, he had a slew of other things that were significant that was going to put him behind bars, him pleading guilty to. So for me, it was more of a like, do I have to drop this kind of in my conscience to get him behind bars? Or do I, use all of these community resources to be dragged through the mud in a trial, have my own, character questioned, to have him held accountable for all of these. And in the end, ultimately it's the prosecutor's decision. But she said, if it's something you are passionate about, I would advise against it, but we could go, to trial. It would be a slam dunk case, but, it's not going to be easy. It's going to take a long time.
But once again, it gets you in this situation that you don't need or want to be in. You're a victim, and you're once again having to have strength that most people don't have. And there's this eye-opening audio, you guys, or ear-opening audio, between Christopher and his mom in jail where the mom is saying, like, maybe this would have been different if I let you stay at our house. And he said, it wouldn't have mattered. I've thought about her every day for the last 12 years. And the mom says, I never heard you mention her name once. And I thought, wow. I mean, there's so many levels to that, just in the fact that we don't know what anybody else is doing. We don't know anybody's thoughts. The mom had never heard your name, but also that showed in that moment, that audio, that this man was so dead set. There was going to be no changing this outcome. There was nothing. And this all leads to you having to speak at your own trial. And I want you guys watch this, but you give this kind of slam dunk. I mean, once again, I just keep asking how you're feeling. Once again, that was the moment where I was like, I would fall apart. I wouldn't be able to speak. How did you summon, like, what is going through your head where you were able to clearly speak your truth?
I mean, it was one of the most difficult moments of my life. I spent time preparing this whole statement, to read to the judge with this rapist 10 feet from me, our family's behind us, setting the scene. And I have to it's the same judge that denied my PPO. It's the same exact person. And so I, in this moment, come up to read this statement, and this judge, before even speaking, pays me some compliments of like, this, because this was a really significant case where we lived. And, he recognized, he had some things to say that were complimentary of me, but I read this statement, and the whole video is actually on YouTube somewhere, but it's hard for me to read. And my friends, and one of my closest friends, Robin, was like, I want you to feel free to, you're such an articulate person, but I want everyone to see what I've seen and see the terror you felt and the emotion behind it all. Yeah. And she was nervous I was just going to be like a robot and read this statement. And, while I'm there in the moment, it's really emotional for me. Like I kind of have to take a moment and collect myself halfway through, sharing with the court how this whole experience, the stalking in its entirety and this abduction, has affected me in the court process. It was delayed for like a year. His attorney thought maybe he was incompetent to be held criminally responsible because, like, what sane person does this? But
well, he was found competent. And you're able to get through this. And there was this detail where Christopher was going up to speak after, and he had 3 pages. He had 3 pages, a huge speech, you guys. He was going to really probably grandstand or something. And he decides not to read it and to sort of apologize in that moment. Do you think that was a recognition, or do you think that was, I mean, do you think that was him hedging his bets of like, this isn't going to work for me anymore? In that moment, what was your reaction to that?
I don't know. I think before he even got the opportunity, I think between what the prosecutor said, what the judge said before even reading, this was at the sentencing, so there wasn't like an actual trial. He was pleading guilty, and then the judge was sentencing however many years according to the entirety of the case and the charges. So he had already heard from me. He, had heard all of these statements. There was, proof of all of these as well, even if he weren't to have pled guilty. I don't know what it was for him. I don't know if he just finally wanted to be honest, or if he just was overwhelmed with guilt, or just thought, there's no way I'm getting out of this. I just don't, or if he was just feeling cowardly. I really don't know.
And watching this, I was thinking all of what you just said. And then my overwhelming thought was, who cares? Screw him. Who cares? I don't care. I don't care. This isn't his story. And we're lucky that the judge does throw the book at him, just throws the book at him. And I've left out so many details, you guys, like details on how he was able to find out every place that she went. There are so many just really horrific details, and that's why you need to watch this. But to catch up to present day, I think a lot of people, he's never tried to contact you, has he, from that point on?
I mean, he can't. He's in prison.
No, I know, but I don't know how it works there. I don't know if you're allowed to mail things. Like, I don't know if I don't know how that kind of stuff works. I just didn't know if there was any sort of reaching out to anybody in your circle.
No.
Okay, thank God. Thank God, sorry. And then I kept, and I know you don't want to get too much into, but like, how is your life now? Like, because I would imagine trauma like this, even if you're a therapist, takes so much work, and it's probably a daily weight that you have to lift. What is your life like now?
I mean, in a lot of ways it's the same, and in a lot of ways it's completely different. I mean, I never would have thought I would see my face on a Hulu screen. I'm not somebody who nobody likes public speaking, or I don't know, I guess some people seeks the spotlight sometimes, and that's like never something I'm about. But I feel like in terms of, it's given me this interesting opportunity, like sort of as a career path in some ways, of like, I'm a licensed social worker. I'm in this unique position where I can help advocate. Stalking is so underreported, and it is so difficult to try to get someone behind bars for it. In a lot of ways, I'm very lucky that Christopher did all of these other things that put him behind bars, because the stalking alone is so difficult to prosecute and actually get someone behind bars for a significant amount of time. It almost requires somebody to take the next step and do something horrific like what I went through to really get them behind bars, which is terrifying. And it is a very gendered experience. There are men who are stalked by other men and by women.
Yeah.
It goes both ways, but it is overwhelmingly, 1 in 3 women are stalked at some point in their lives, and 1 in 6 men to some degree. It happens.
I mean, so is it about changing the overall laws? Is that what we would potentially want to try to do?
Yeah. I mean, I think to me, it never made sense why a personal protection order would be so difficult to get. I could see in an aspect where you're sharing a workplace with someone who's stalking you, or you're co-parenting, or it's, a family member or something. But in this situation, there's nothing. Believing the potential victim really has no big downside. If somebody's not actually stalking them, then they're never going to get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, judges and the courts need to do their due diligence of looking into these people that are having claims filed against them for protection orders. He's done this multiple times. What would make you think that this wouldn't be a legitimate situation? Look into that paperwork. Don't set it aside and say this looks complicated. grant the
Yeah,
orders,
it is
help people.
complicated. That's why we brought it to you guys, because it is complicated. I mean, these seems like obvious things, and so it does make you sometimes question the overall judicial system. And I know I just can't imagine how frustrating that is for you. But for my listeners and viewers out there, I mean, what are the things that, like, I mean, we're having our first daughter here in a couple of months, and I was watching this and I was like, oh God, oh God. I was watching this and that unknown number, the high school catfish thing. And I was like, this is just, oh my
Also in
God.
Michigan.
Also, so wait, okay. So move out of Michigan, you guys. That's a big, no, this happens all over the world in every country. But what are the things that people can like be aware of, or like, have you like, these are the things, these are the big red flags we got to look out for?
I mean, obviously protecting yourself or your loved ones. Like if you have an icky feeling about something, you probably should listen to it. I think I hindsight's always 2020. I would react differently than what I did when I was 20. When somebody starts, messaging me, I would be a lot more quickly to say, either not reply or block someone or ask them to leave me alone than what I did, even if there's no real, the second I had
Yeah.
that intuition, I probably would have done it now. But the other thing I think about is everyone says, oh, my daughter, oh, my female somebody here. Um, it's about our sons too, and about men, because it's not just how do we protect ourselves so it doesn't happen to me, or with the other girl he stalked whose name was Kelly. For Kelly, she eventually gets him off her
Off
trail,
her. Yeah.
and then he comes and does it to me. It's about preventing entirely. A stalker, if you can shake a stalker, they're just going to find somebody else. It's a
Yeah,
matter
it's
of
like, yeah, I mean,
time.
like, so to your point, like teaching our sons and our brothers and our like teaching them critical thinking skills and the difference between right and wrong, and being very aware of who we're bringing into the world and what we're putting into their heads. Is that what a little bit of what you meant about
Yeah,
education for men as well?
consent. I mean, it's as simple as that. Of like, somebody says no, you don't say, "Oh, just give them some time, like they'll come around." How often do we hear things like that? Like, "Oh,
Yeah.
she's not interested in you, maybe try again later." Like, how many times do you have to say no? Like, you can always change your answer, but you don't need to keep asking somebody.
Yeah.
That's a very simple thing, but when it comes to stalking, it's essentially violating what somebody's asking you to do over
Yeah.
and over again.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
it's a gendered thing, and it's, how do we find services and help these people that, there are certain personality types that become stalkers, and, some cases there's things you can kind of look at. A lot of his friends were not shocked that I was the victim at all. And so maybe his mom never heard my name, but there were guy friends of his
oh
that
yeah.
immediately
There
thought of me when they saw this, and they went, "I have no doubt in my mind he did this." How do
that's in the
you
docu series. So I think it's like you want to believe the best in your friends and stuff like that, and like, oh, he's always had a crush on this person, and you can't fathom in your mind that, oh, they're going to build some kind of panic room within a storage facility and trap her. Like your mind just doesn't go there. But we do have to be more critical in every area of our life and just really think things through. And if they're your friend, be a friend. And if they're going down a bad path, I don't know. It just overall, I just wanted to thank you because this was so gripping, and it would not have been nearly as powerful or educational without your involvement. I'm sure they would have done like some kind of Dateline or something like that, but this, with your involvement, was so powerful. And I watched all 3 episodes back to back, and I ran into Sarah from ABC News at the Lilith Fair documentary screening, and I said, this was last week, and I said, you know what, I still can't stop thinking about Stalking Samantha. And and I was like, she was like, do you want to talk to her? And I was like, could I? Like, it's been a month since it's been out, but I just want more people to be aware of this and to watch this because it hits all of those buttons, like it is. I don't want to say entertaining, but it's so well done and it's so engrossing, and it's because of you. And I've thought about it nonstop since I've seen it. So, Samantha, what are you up to next? Because it's not like you're like, well, I'm doing a new documentary. Like, what are you up to? What are you up to next, or what can we do as an audience to support?
Yeah, God, I really hope there's no follow-up
Yeah,
stalking.
my God. Yeah, no, no, no. We don't
Which
want a
was a
sequel.
concern.
We,
I hope that through doing this, I don't get more stalkers or something. But
yeah.
I am still working my job. I actually work in aging. I'm a social worker in aging. But I also, with my friend Robin, have launched this kind of advocacy group called Beekeepers Advocacy. And I'm hoping to do more kind of speaking engagements, helping educate and advocate for victims of stalking and or sexual assault.
You must get some really interesting people reaching out to you with their stories, I would imagine.
It does happen. I'm And I want to say too, like a lot of the reason for me speaking up too is because there are so many people and people that have sent me their stories too of like, I have a friend who was a victim of stalking and was killed. Like there's so many people that end up in a situation like mine or entirely different from mine that are stalked by ex-partners and are killed. Like people don't survive this sometimes. And I feel like
Yeah.
I want to honor those people's stories too and what they went through. And I hope that nobody, goes through what I went through or dies at the hands of a stalker or someone who assaults them or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it's very sobering for me. I didn't feel like I was going to survive, and I know that there's many people who don't survive that. So I feel like a lot of it too is honoring those people and not forgetting
Well,
what they went through.
to your point, you are honoring them. I mean, this is all about education at this point and getting the word out there and not having anybody out there suffer in silence, being able to have open lines of communication, no shame in anybody's story. And Samantha, I hope I never have to speak to you again. I hope that there's never a sequel to this. I mean, I hope I get to speak to you again, but I hope it's for something positive or for some kind of advocacy. But you guys, once again, this is called Stalking Samantha. I'm going to put it in the show notes. I'm going to put her advocacy group in the show notes. I know I'm going to keep up to date with what she is doing and trying to support in any way I can. And I hope you will do the same. But please start with watching this 3-part docuseries. ABC News Studios knocked this one out of the park. And Samantha, thank you so much I know we went over, so thank you so much for all your time today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you so much for interviewing me, for watching the show, for um, you know, having
Well,
that promotion as well. I
yeah. Well,
appreciate it.
next time I'm gonna make you watch an episode of Vanderpump Rules and recap that with me, so we can just make fun of other people. So that'll be the next time. I'll talk to you soon, Samantha. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.